Hello everyone, DJ here, and welcome back to Thomas Characters Explained for a very different kind of episode this time around. In the last episode, I mentioned how I was potentially going to talk about either Gator, or Lexi, or Hugo, and to be honest, I was preparing to rewatch Journey Beyond Sodor in order to talk about Lexi, but then this happened. So, for those of you that don't know, I make these videos quite far in advance in order to balance a release schedule, and right as I was heading into production of the Lexi video in late May, this video by CTFEologist dropped. The video, titled The Real Lost Episodes of Season 21 Thomas Revealed, goes over all of the dropped, reworked, or cancelled episodes of Season 21. And it's a really good video, I highly recommend it. However, out of all the new stuff it revealed, the biggest thing was a scrapped episode starring Percy, Jinty, and Pug of all characters. Yes, that's right, the two nothing mainland engines who appeared in like 2 pages of the Railway series 60 years ago were in a story treatment for a Season 21 episode, and apparently Ian McHugh himself was a big proponent of getting them into the show. Now, of course, with the Big World Big Adventures rebrand, the episode was scrapped, but I thought given that this is such a fascinating instance of the CGI era's history, Jinty and Pug would be great candidates for an episode of this series. So sit back and relax as I explain everything to do with Jinty and Pug. Before I start this segment, I also just wanted to mention the fact that CTFEologist, along with Marvelous Mainland, Piece of JVA, and Glitchion, produced an animated adaptation of the Percy, Pug, and Jinty episode concept. It was uploaded individually as well as within the Season 21 video to YouTube. So, due to limited images of Jinty and Pug, I will be showing clips of the video here. Please go and give it a watch, it is well worth it. Jinty and Pug are 2 engines from the mainland who first appeared in the 1957 Railway Series book, The 8 Famous Engines, in the story, The Fat Controller's Engines, and are noted to be friends of Percy. Their names are both of Scottish origin, Jinty's coming from the real-life locomotive's Scottish Gaelic origin nickname, and Pug's coming from the Scottish nickname for industrial tank engines. They arrive on the railway to help out while the 8 famous engines, that being the main characters of the books at the time, went off to England for a railway exhibition of sorts. In the story, Thomas, while showing Jinty the ropes, begins bragging about his race with Bertie, and while showing off, carelessly crashes through some buffers and badly damages himself. Jinty is of course seen laughing in this illustration while helping Thomas. Later on in the story, after the 8 famous engines return, the passengers had this to say about Jinty and Pug's performance on the railway. Those others did their best, but they don't know our ways. Nothing anywhere can compare to our Fat Controller's engines. Jinty and Pug were never adapted into the Season 4 adaptation of the Fat Controller's Engines, that episode of course being Thomas and the Special Letter. And that does make sense. Why would the show crew want to go through the trouble of making models for characters who appear on screen for like not even a minute? This limitation is not present within CGI, however. Enter Percy, Pug, and Jinty. Percy, Pug, and Jinty is the working title of an episode concept written by Lee Pressman and revealed to the Thomas fandom at large in the Season 21 Lost Episodes video by CTFEologist. In this scrapped episode, the turntable at Tidmouth malfunctions, leaving Percy, the only engine to have left the sheds prior, as the only one of the steam team able to complete his work. This leads to Sir Topham Hatt bringing Jinty and Pug across from the mainland to help out, and just like the books, they establish that the 3 are already friends, and they indirectly reference Percy Takes the Plunge, implying that Jinty and Pug were present among the engines from the mainland Percy was bragging to and sharing stories with. Of course, the Railway series and TV series are 2 different canons, so make of that what you will. They really play up Percy's boastful, show-off side here, and throughout the episode, he is constantly involved in various shenanigans trying to impress Jinty and Pug. They're kind of like little siblings who idolize Percy, and to be honest, they are a little gullible, and take what he says without any further thought, such as not questioning Percy attempting to take the express of all things. The story culminates in Percy trying to use the broken turntable to show off, but this only breaks it further, causing it to spin violently, suddenly stop, and fling Percy into the back of the shed, thus ending the episode Percy, Pug, and Jinty. I really like this episode concept, and I have a lot more to say about it in the My Thoughts segment of the video, but for right now, let's get into some history and talk about Jinty and Pug's bases. Let's start out with Jinty and then move on to Pug. Jinty is based on the London, Midland and Scottish Railway Fowler 3F, an 060 tank engine designed by Henry Fowler and built by a variety of different locomotive builders, with different batches made by W.G. Bagnall, W.N. Beardmore & Co., Hunslet Engine Co., LMS Horwich Works, North British Locomotive Company, and Vulcan Foundry. A total of 422 of these engines were built between 1924 and 1931 as a development of the 2441 class designed by Samuel Waite Johnson in 1899, specifically rebuilds done by Henry Fowler. These engines were given the nickname Jinties and were essentially the pinnacle of 060 tank engines on the LMS. The Jinties had two inside cylinders measuring 18 by 26 inches, Stephenson link motion, a top speed of 97 km per hour, and a tractive effort of 20,835 pound-force. The engines were originally numbered 7100 to 7149 and 16400 to 16764. However, when the LMS renumbered its locomotives in 1934, they were renumbered 7260 to 7681, and further renumbering under British Railways in 1948 as well, gaining the prefix 4 ahead of their 7000 series numbers. Some Jinties would actually go on to serve the War Department during the Second World War, and although Hunslet austerity tank engines were more preferred, 8 Jinties were deployed overseas in France before the 1940 German Spring Offensive, with 5 returning to Britain by 1948. The Jinties soon saw withdrawals starting in the late 50s and early 60s, with the last 5 lasting until 1967, and one more, 47445, continuing to see service within the National Coal Board. Given the fact that the Jinties were such well-performing locomotives and the fact that they were made in such high quantity, many would see preservation, such as 47279 at the Keighley and Worth Valley Railway, 47298 at Ian Riley Engineering, 47324 at the East Lancashire Railway, 47327 at the Midland Railway, 47357 at the Midland Railway, 47838 at the Severn Valley Railway, 47406 at the Great Central Railway, 47445 at the Midland Railway, and 47493 at the Spa Valley Railway. Now, the character Jinty does not have a number, but he is said to be part of the batch of engines built in 1924 and 1925, numbered under BR as 47260 to 47309, a few of which are preserved, as I said earlier, so any of those engines I think it's safe to say could in fact be Jinty. But for right now, let's move on to Pug. Pug is a Kitson 040ST, a member of a class of engines built for the LMS in 2 batches, 5 in 1932 and 5 more between 1953 and 1954. The first 5 being built at Kitson, and the latter built at Horwich Works. 10 in total, these engines were built for light shunting duties, had a top speed of 56 km per hour, 2 outside cylinders that measured 15.5 inches by 20 inches, and a tractive effort of 14,205 pound-force. The first 5 engines were originally numbered 1540 to 1544, later renumbered 7000 to 7004, and then given a 4 in front of their new numbers by BR in 1948, with the latter 5 commissioned by BR from Horwich in 1953. These being numbered 47005 to 47009. Now, Pug himself does not have a visible number, but we do know that he was part of the first batch built by Kitson in 1932. Unfortunately, by the end of Steam on BR in the late 60s, all 10 of the Kitson 040s were scrapped, having been withdrawn between 1963 and 1966. For our purposes, however, we can just say that he is simply one that escaped the Cutter's torch, and at the odd time makes his way to Sodor. What is interesting about Pug, though, is the fact that he apparently was not explicitly said by Audrey to be a Kitson 040. However, this basis has been assigned to him, as the Kitson's 040s are the engines that he resembles most. Obviously, Jinty and Pug are not well fleshed out characters. Heck, they are basically props in the Railway series, but I think what writer Lee Pressman was attempting to do with them was really interesting, and a great step forward in terms of character writing for more obscure characters in the show. Jinty and Pug are written as gullible and naive engines who look up to Percy with an awe that he basically only gets from them, which of course causes him to show off and become much more arrogant than normal. Of all things, it's actually quite similar to the dynamic between Corey, Trevor, and Ricky in the Canadian showcase mockumentary sitcom Trailer Park Boys. A completely different show with, of course, a much more overtly adult and comedic tone. But both shows have two dumber characters look up to with an almost god complex and even dumber character thing going on. Overall, it's a huge shame, in my opinion, that the episode featuring Jinty and Pug was scrapped, but at least we have the aforementioned recreation of the episode on YouTube, and once again, I highly recommend you check it out. Huge props to CTFEologist and their collaborators, as well as Lee Pressman, for getting the concept out there for all of us to see. Well, I gotta admit, this is a video I did not expect to make, but one that I had an absolute blast with. This show, of course, focuses primarily on obscure or lesser-known Thomas characters, and sometimes we travel pretty far history-wise, so to have some quintessentially British tank engines to talk about is always a treat. Thanks for watching, guys. If you have any suggestions for future characters or videos, please leave them in the comments, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, guys!